Good morning, everybody. We're live from the birdhouse. It is Tuesday, July 19th, and today we're giving you a little update about the different types of birds people are seeing and hearing in their yards, and we'll share your photos that you guys have been submitting. As always, if you're on, you can always say hi in the comments. We'd love to know what kind of birds you're seeing, especially if you've got some flight out there that have been leaving the nest. That's always fun to know about. So put those in the comments if you're hearing any birds singing. There's been some birds that have been pretty loud. I'm still hearing a Carolina wren in my neighborhood singing its little heart out here and there, which is pretty fun. So yeah, if you're seeing or hearing anything, put those in the comments. And then of course, we'd love to know what kind of sightings you're seeing with butterflies and that kind of thing. We've been getting reports of some monarch butterflies around, not in any huge numbers that I've heard of yet, but people are starting to see monarchs and they're starting to get some eggs on their milkweed. So that's always an exciting time as well. And if you have questions, absolutely, you can always put those in the comments. So let's get started. First of all, we have our caption contest going on. Now, this is the photo from the last caption contest. And I want to say congratulations to Chris, who won with her caption of this photo here of the two pileated woodpeckers. Her caption was, "We'd better get our offer in now before someone outbids us." So every other week, we have a caption contest on our Facebook page, and the person who has the caption that gets the most reactions, whether it be likes or hearts or anything like that, that is the winner. And the winner received a $25 gift certificate to the birdhouse, so it doesn't cost anything to enter. And we do have another photo caption contest going on right now. This is the newest caption contest photo picture submitted by Bob Henry. It is a picture here of a belted kingfisher and a chipmunk kind of having a showdown here. So this is the newest photo for the caption contest going on right now. If you go to our Facebook page, this is pinned right up at the top, so you should easily be able to find it and put in your funniest or best caption for this photo for a chance to win a $25 gift certificate. Here's a better zoomed in photo of it right here. So an action shot here between two animals that you usually don't see very close to one another. I should also mention too that we do have a photo contest every year, and our photo contest will begin about a month from now in August 15th. It's totally free to enter. You can enter 2 photos. You do submit them physically, so you can either bring them into the store or mail them in. We have multiple categories. We have a bird category, we have a wildlife category, scenery, and we also started a pet category. So we have all of those categories. You can submit 2 photos spaced in any of the categories that you want. We also have a youth division too. So for anyone 16 or under, they can also join in on the fun. So the winners of the contest get $150 certificates. So first place winner in each category gets a $100 gift certificate. Second place winner in each category gets a $50 gift certificate. And we also do customer's choice voting for that too, and those winners also get gift certificates. So there's a lot of gifts, a lot of prizes that are handed out for our photo contest. So now's a good time to look through your photos and see what ones you'll want to submit. The submission goes for about a month, so begins August 15th, and you can submit photos through September 18th. So we'll talk about that more as it gets closer, but that's something to mark your calendar if you've got any kind of fun photos. It's always neat to see what kind of things we get in here at the store. So as far as the different things that people are hearing and seeing, one to keep your ears open for more so than anything else is going to be the red-eyed vireo. So red-eyed vireo isn't going to be the most common thing you'll see in your backyard, but you might have them and not even know it. Red-eyed vireo sing all summer long. They almost sound like a robin, but the sound isn't as it's not as much of a song. It's kind of more disjointed. I'll play you their call, because you might just be hearing this in your yard and have red-eyed vireo around and not know it. So I pulled up the Merlin app here, which has a whole bunch of bird calls on it, and this is what your red-eyed vireo sounds like. It almost sounds like they're having a conversation with themselves. So that is the red-eyed vireo. So I wouldn't be surprised if you pull out, if you do have the Merlin app and you pull it out and you do the sound ID to listen to what birds are around, a red-eyed vireo, because they do, and they sing and sing and sing all summer long. If you go into the woods at all this time of the year, you can absolutely hear them calling throughout the whole day. So lots of red-eyed vireo around. Also, Scarlet Tanager. A lot of people are reporting Scarlet Tanager. They, again, aren't going to be your most common bird that you'll find in your backyard, but people do get them coming to their backyards. If you have any kind of bushes that have berries, they'll come to those. They'll also eat sunflower hearts sometimes. So if you have any kind of feeder with sunflower hearts, which are the insides of the sunflower here without the shell, they're known to eat those. Mealworms are another way you could possibly get them. And then they also like water, especially moving water. So if you have a bird bath, any kind of bird bath with a fountain feature in it, I bring these up all the time, these solar bird bath little fountain bubblers. These can bring in birds like Scarlet Tanager. So people are seeing and hearing Scarlet Tanager in their yards. And there's nothing that looks quite like the Scarlet Tanager. They're bright red. They have those black wings. And the females are more of a yellow color. Here's a picture of a female Scarlet Tanager. So she's quite yellowish in color, but she still has those dark wings. And I'll play you the Scarlet Tanager call as well, because they are singing now too. And this is again on the Merlin app, which is great for learning bird calls. Here's another version here. So keep your ears open for the Scarlet Tanager, because they are singing in people's yards as well. So you might just have those around and not even know it. So this is another picture here of the female Scarlet Tanager. She's yellow with the dark colored wing. If you're spending any time by the water, there's some bigger birds you might see. Osprey are one. So if you're spending any time by the lake or by the bay, any place that has a body of water with fish, you can absolutely find osprey. They are quite large, and their wings are going to be thinner than that of a bald eagle. So they can sometimes look like a bald eagle because they have that whitish colored head, but their whole body is pretty light colored, and then the wings are kind of dark and speckled, and they eat just almost exclusively fish. So they are always found by some kind of body of water. So keep your eye out for osprey. You might also see bald eagle. So bald eagle can look quite different depending on the age of the bird. The adults of course, have that bright white head and bright white tail, but the juveniles can look quite a bit different. So here's a couple pictures here, or a couple of individuals here on the left that are juveniles. So they don't get that bright white head and white tail until they're a few years old. So for a long time, they're going to be pretty dark in color. So if you see a large, mostly dark bird with a large head, it's probably going to be a bald eagle. Then there's also the turkey vulture. So all three of these birds, the bald eagle, the osprey, and the turkey vulture, they can kind of be easy to confuse. But the turkey vulture is another large bird that people will sometimes confuse for a bald eagle. But if you look at their head when they are in flight, their head's going to be quite small. They have these white bands. Their contrast on their wings is pretty distinctive, the black going into the white. There's not a lot of speckling like you see on the osprey there. There's a lot of speckling in between the wings. Same with the bald eagles. The turkey vulture is more straight black to white. And the turkey vulture tends not to be flapping its wings either when it's in flight. They tend to hover and just kind of soar and glide. So if you see a bird of prey or something big that looks like a bird of prey flapping its wings a lot, probably a bald eagle or an osprey. And if it's not, it's just kind of gliding, probably going to be a turkey vulture. So keep your eyes out for these. There's definitely a whole bunch of them around, especially if you're spending any time at the water or at a beach. Keep your eyes out for all of these because they're definitely being reported, and they'll be here for the osprey and the turkey vulture. They're here all summer long, and bald eagles will be here all year long. Some photos you guys have submitted. There's all kinds of bird activity going on in backyards, including lots of baby birds. And photo sent in by Stacy, who says Mr. and Mrs. Cardinal at our feeders with their juvenile hanging out in a flower bed nearby. So here's a juvenile cardinal. It can be a little difficult to tell if you have a juvenile or a female cardinal sometimes, but if you look closely at the face of this cardinal, you'll see the beak is a dark color. That's a really good way to tell that that is a juvenile because the adults will have that bright orange beak. So that's one good way to tell the difference between the two. And usually their feathers are going to be a little bit disheveled too if they're a juvenile, or they look a little stunted, their feathers do, as they're growing in. Sometimes they won't have that full crest. So that's another way you can tell that you've got yourself a juvenile there. So this is a juvenile cardinal here that was hanging out in a little flower bed. So juvenile cardinals are definitely around right now, coming to feeders. And they love, just like the adults, they love the black oil sunflower seed. They'll eat the sunflower hearts. So just like I was talking about sunflower hearts for the Scarlet Tanager, just about any kind of bird that'll come to a feeder, at least a seed feeder, will eat the sunflower hearts. You can't go wrong with that. So the juvenile cardinals will absolutely eat sunflower seed. They eat the safflower seed, just like the adults do. Wrens are starting to fledge, so we've been getting lots of people reporting that house wrens especially have been using their houses right now. And this photo was sent in by Bob, who says, "Fledge day. 3 little house wrens poking their heads out of the birdhouse this morning. It looks like they all fledged this morning. I did see 2 leave almost at the same time, and Mom and Dad were working to get the others to fledge." So you can see their little heads sticking out of that house there as they're starting to fledge. So be on the lookout for house wrens out and about in the world. They will also eat those sunflower hearts. They're known to eat mealworms as well. So a lot of birds will eat mealworms this time of the year, especially the juveniles or the adults who are looking for food for the juveniles. They'll come to mealworms. So if you're looking to add a little bit something extra to what you're feeding the birds, the mealworms are a way to go. We just got a whole bunch more of the freeze-dried mealworms in all different sizes. And of course we have the live ones too. And the birds do prefer the live mealworms, but the live mealworms aren't for everybody. So freeze-dried mealworms, they'll also eat. If you put a little bit of water on these, or I've even heard olive oil, you can put a little bit of olive oil on them. They will absorb that, and they just look a little bit more alive, and the birds tend to like that a little bit more. So mealworms are a great way to provide a little bit of extra food for birds if you're looking to give them just a little bit something extra. So wrens will eat those as well as the sunflower hearts, and also these nuggets. We have things called bluebird nuggets or peanut nuggets. We have orange nuggets for Orioles. These are little balls of suet, and you can get a special feeder for these, or if you have a peanut feeder for the peanut pickouts, they'll fit in that, or you can put it in a tray feeder, something simple like that. But they'll also eat this kind of thing too. So wrens are known to come to suet, just regular suet, but also these little suet balls as well. So some kind of something a little different that you might want to put out for your birds, especially if you're getting some babies out there like these little house wrens. This is a pretty cool photo. Another one sent in by Bob here, who says there are actually 5 northern flickers, but I managed to capture 4 in one shot. And we'll zoom in on this here to see that there are 4 northern flickers here all at once. So probably some young that have recently fledged. You can see there's one in the bottom left corner here, a couple at the top of the tree, and then another in the bottom right. And this one at the very tippy top, you can see those bright yellow feathers that they have underneath their wing, which you can see pretty well when they're in flight. You can see that flash of yellow. So really cool shot there of a bunch of northern flickers sent in by Bob. Another photo that he sent in is of a rose-breasted grosbeak. So rose-breasted grosbeak, a lot of us get at our feeders in the spring and then tend not to see them again. That's how it goes every year at my house. I get them for maybe a week or 2 weeks here and there, and then they're gone. I don't see them again, but they are here all summer long as they're mating and raising their young, but they're just not coming to feeders as often like they do in the spring, but they are still around. And this photo was sent in by Bob, so we've got the photographic proof here. He says, I captured a few more photos of the rose-breasted grosbeak. I love the one in the bare branches. Tiny red spot on the breast and a bit of red under the wing. If you drew a line from the dot to the left towards the wing is where the other red is located. Hopefully it shows, because the quality of the photos that get uploaded to Facebook sometimes lose definition. So I'm going to zoomed in here, and you can see a little bit of red on it, but not a ton, unfortunately. But there are grosbeaks around. And in fact, my Merlin app picked some up the other day when I was out in the woods. So I couldn't picture them. I couldn't find them, but I could hear them. And my Merlin app was picking them up. But here's some photographic evidence that those rose-breasted grosbeaks are still around. So some people do get them coming to their feeders all summer long, especially if they are nesting nearby. But for the most part, for everything we hear from people, is that they just kind of pop in for a little bit in the spring, and then they kind of go on their way, and are most likely eating now instead of a bunch of seeds like they do in the early spring when they're rolling in, probably eating a bunch of insects right now. But your best bet as far as food for the grosbeaks is going to be the same type of thing that you would feed cardinals. So sunflower seed, or those sunflower hearts, the safflower seed they love, and anything with enough perching room for a large bird like a grosbeak is what you really need. So something with a tray on it, or something with pretty large perches on it, like this tube feeder here with large perches, is what you would need to get the grosbeaks, because they are a fairly large bird. So here is a bird you've probably seen in your backyard, for better or for worse. This is a common grackle, and Bob says not everyone's favorite bird, a common grackle, but this one appears to be a juvenile. Yes, it does. And actually, I've seen some juvenile grackles in my backyard as well. For the most part, they're going to be the same size as the adults, but you can see they don't have the iridescent coloring yet on their head. So they're going to be mostly all black, and they don't have that shiny blue head, and even the rest of their body that usually has some iridescence to it, you're not going to see. Now, if you are getting grackles coming back to your feeders, and that's not something you're looking forward to or want to encourage, I guess maybe I should say, you can also put safflower seed out. Switch your seed to straight safflower. Grackles really don't like that. It can take the other birds a little bit of time to get used to it, but birds like cardinals, that grosbeak, if you happen to have them, house finches, they all love the safflower seed. So I know a lot of you guys switch to safflower seed in the early spring. So that's the seed here. It's kind of whitish in color. A lot of you guys switch to that in the spring when the grackles are first coming in and they're super hungry and they kind of raid the feeders and drain them down really quickly. If you're starting to get a lot of grackles or even starlings coming to your feeders, they're not going to like that safflower seed. So that's something you can always put out to discourage them. Really cute photo here of a young tufted titmouse. And Bob says, based on my sightings, there have been many successful broods this year. And if you watch this broadcast often, that you'll know Bob gets really great birds in his yard, including these that that he has seen fledge this year. So he's got bluebirds, chipping sparrows, gray catbirds, Baltimore orioles, indigo buntings, house finches, American robins, Rosebreasted grosbeaks, cardinals, downy woodpeckers, hairy woodpeckers, northern flickers, red-bellied woodpeckers, eastern phoebes, house wrens, and I'm sure a few others. But today I saw these adorable tufted titmice flying around and begging for food. Just too cute. So on the top of the mailbox here, you can see a little tufted titmouse. Very, very cute. Looks a little disheveled. That's how you can tell that it's a juvenile. The feathers are kind of all over the place, and they look like they just kind of rolled out of bed, if you will. So really cute photos here of a young tufted titmouse. So another juvenile that is out and about in the world now, and they are cavity nesters as well. They're actually in the same family as the chickadees, so they tend to like the same kind of food the chickadees do. Again, the black oil sunflower. They really love peanuts, so peanut pickouts are great for the titmice. And they do nest in cavities. So if you have any kind of hollow trees or birdhouses out there, you might just get yourself a tufted titmouse. And Orioles, people are still getting Orioles. Of course, the males and females look different, but they are still coming to feeders. We're getting people who are definitely getting them, bringing their young to the feeders. Now is the time where that happens. And they're eating a mix of things. So we're still selling a lot of the birdberry jelly. And they're also coming to mealworms. So if you have any kind of combination of those two out right now, you've got a good chance of getting your Orioles back, even if they disappeared for a little bit. That's not uncommon. But if you still have some jelly left for the season, I'd throw some out there and see if you get your Orioles back, because they have been bringing their kids to the feeders, which is really fun to see. Bob sent in these photos here. He says, not sure if Orioles flock together as they prepare to migrate south or not, but I had a flock of around 7 or so flying around the neighborhood for a few days. I tried to catch a photo, but they landed too spread out across multiple trees, but I did manage to capture a few of smaller groups of the larger flock. The photo with red leaves has 2 Orioles, and the one with green leaves has 3. I also threw in a few other photos I've captured, but none at any feeders. So Bob's been seeing them in the trees, but not at the feeders. And in general, birds do group up to migrate. Usually they kind of group up until weather conditions are perfect, and then they kind of go on their way. So I'm not quite sure if they group up by species or not, but it could very well be, especially if they like the same kind of habitat. That wouldn't be surprising to see a whole big group of Orioles together. So they'll still stick around for quite a while, for another month at least or so, but ultimately they do go south for the winter. So here's some more of the Oriole photos here of the group that Bob saw. And then some more Oriole action here. He said, I've been seeing these large groups of Orioles, but finally snapped a photo and captured 5 of them at one time in a single tree. And he put little arrows there. We can zoom in here. So you can kind of see, if you look where all the pink or purple, I guess they are, maybe arrows are, you can see there's these little orange dots. So there's at least 5 Orioles here in this photo that have all grouped up in the same tree. So it would be interesting to see. It's kind of hard to tell from the photo, but it could be maybe even a family group. I wonder if they were being raised in this tree. But lots of Oriole action going on over at Bob's, which is great. And this he had sent in earlier, of a couple of the youngsters here, the juvenile Orioles. He says, young Baltimore Oriole siblings, fun to watch as they were learning to forage for food. Mom and dad nearby, keeping a watchful eye. So the young Orioles are out and about, and they are going out into the world. So hummingbirds, people are reporting some hummingbirds. It's kind of more of the same, that there haven't been a lot in general being sighted. A lot of plants that they like are in bloom right now and starting to bloom. So I'll be curious to see if people start reporting them more now that their hummingbird plants are in bloom. But in general, the numbers of hummingbirds this year have not been very strong. So if you're not experiencing many hummingbirds, you are not alone. And I am in that same boat with you, unfortunately. It seems like a lot of people, if they're along the lakeshore, have been getting good luck with the Orioles. Other young birds out here, here's some bluebird photos. This is what a juvenile bluebird looks like here, begging for food from its parent. So This is another bird that will eat mealworms, especially. Also those suet nuggets I was talking about before when we were talking about wrens. The bluebirds will eat these too. And these are aptly named bluebird nuggets because they do have insect parts in them. But they will sometimes come to suet, especially if it's in that form of those little balls. And mealworms especially is what they like to eat. And it looks like this male here has some type of insect there in its mouth for that juvenile. So this is what your juvenile bluebird will look like. So they've got some blue on them, but they're very speckly for a while. And the goldfinches are starting to nest. So if you see goldfinches flying around with some nesting material in their beak, don't be surprised. They build a really fluffy nest, and they nest really late in the season. So now is the time they start to do that. They only have one brood per year, and now is the time that they start that. So be on the lookout for the goldfinches nesting, and they will pull not only nesting material if you put out a little nesting ball, but they'll also use a lot of plant down. So keep an eye out on your plants if you have anything like thistle, like in this photo here, or if your milkweed, if that is starting to go to down, you'll most likely get some goldfinch action there as they pull off some of that plant down to build a nest. And here's a good photo of that. Not only can they get the seeds out of the plants, but they will use that down their nest. And then this is what their nest looks like. It's a really soft, fluffy cup nest. They don't nest in cavities, so there's no such thing as a goldfinch house, but the best way to encourage them to nest nearby is, of course, giving them some kind of a food source, and nesting material can also help as well. And as far as food goes, they love the Niger seed. We have a blend called Finch Favorite, which they absolutely love. It's a mix of Niger seed, but then also ground up sunflower hearts. So it's got everything they love in that mix. So that's a really good way to attract them as well. In general, if you haven't seen any goldfinches recently, or if they were coming for a while and then they just disappeared, make sure that your seed is fresh, because the Niger seed can go bad after 2 or 3 months. And if it goes bad, you won't get the finches anymore. So it can't hurt to dump that out. Make sure your feeder is also clean. If the feeder isn't clean, if it has any kind of mold in it, that'll keep them away. So as long as your seed is fresh and the feeder is clean, you're doing everything you can to get those goldfinches. So they're definitely still around. And monarch butterflies are floating in. It's hard to say if it's a strong year yet for the monarch butterflies. Haven't heard a lot of people talking about finding eggs or caterpillars on their plants, although some people are. This photo was snapped by our own Laura, who works at the store, of a pretty big caterpillar here on her milkweed. But I've been looking on mine. I haven't seen any eggs yet or any caterpillars. But you always can raise them indoors if you're worried about things like ants eating the little caterpillars or spiders going after the caterpillars. You can absolutely raise them in your home as long as you keep providing them with a fresh source of milkweed, because they can eat a lot in a day. So if you do want to raise them indoors, that is perfectly fine. You just want to make sure that you keep giving them a fresh source of milkweed, and you want to stick with the same plant that they were raised on. So if you found them on common milkweed, you want to keep giving them common milkweed leaves. If you found them on swamp milkweed, you want to keep providing them with swamp milkweed leaves. So absolutely fine to raise indoors if you do find some caterpillars. And lightning bugs. Lightning bugs are definitely out in big numbers. So those are definitely giving you a light show at night. So lots of lightning bugs out. This is what they look like when they are at rest. So at night you can see them glowing pretty well. And during the day, they're just kind of a nondescript beetle here with some yellow and red coloration on them. But you can see that on their abdomen, that the very bottom there, that they do have that little light source. This is what their larvae look like. We talked about them about a week or so ago. They do have their larvae in the grass, so that's why it's important. You don't want to spray your lawn with any kind of insecticide, because it would kill the dragonfly larvae. And the larvae aren't anything gorgeous or beautiful, but they do glow. So keep an eye out for them as well. This is their life cycle. So they start off as an egg, and then they'll go through that larval stage. They pupate, and then you've got yourself the adult. I mentioned also a couple weeks ago or so that I found this cool grapevine beetle in my backyard, which was cool. I'd never seen one before. And I've been getting grapevine just kind of growing in the backyard, and I've been trying to control it, but now I'm doing a little less so because I thought this beetle was pretty cool. This is what it looks like. If you got a good photo of it, mine was kind of in the dark as it came to my porch light and landed in a planter. But this is what the beetle looks like, and others are seeing it too. This photo was sent in by Randy of a grapevine beetle that he had, and he said third this year. So he's also seeing them around, which is really neat. So I had never seen one in my backyard, so I thought that was pretty neat, and other people are getting them too. So if you've got some back grapevine growing anywhere nearby, keep your eye out for these grapevine beetles, and they tend to come to porch lights at night. That's where I saw mine, and I was reading up about them a little bit, and that seems to be their MO. So keep your eye out at night at your porch lights for grapevine beetles. And I'm still getting action of these leaf cutter bees that are going after some of my plants. I thought this was kind of cool. Looks like it's what I believe is an aster, and there's all these chunks taken out of it from leaf cutter bees. And they'll also sometimes use mason bee houses. So I've been keeping an eye out. One of my mason bee houses isn't totally full. I put a new one out this year that hasn't been getting a lot of action. So I'm keeping an eye out to see if the leaf cutter bees will come and go, because they will sometimes use those houses as well. This is some evidence, if you've got this in your yard, that you do have leaf cutter bees. And this is what they look like. So I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any kind of comments or questions, you can put those in the comments here. Pat is on, says, hi, everyone. Heavy Cream says, in from Penfield. And Pat also says, I love the Merlin app. Yeah, the Merlin app is awesome. There's a lot of different apps you can use for identifying birds and bugs and mushrooms and plants. But the Merlin one is great with that sound ID. There's really nothing else like it. And they also have photo ID, which works pretty well too. So if you have a photo of a bird, you're not sure what it is, the Merlin app can usually identify it or get you quite close. So Lynn says, I put woodpecker mix in my squirrel buster because it's all I had left. Was this not a good thing? Thanks. So actually the woodpecker mix is what I put in all my feeders. It's just, it doesn't have any shells on it, which I like. So I don't have to worry about like my dogs eating the shells or anything like that. So the woodpecker mix is totally fine in the squirrel buster, depending on what kind of squirrel buster you have. If there's big pieces in that woodpecker mix, sometimes it might get caught in it a little bit if it's one of the smaller squirrel busters. And if that's the case, you just kind of shake the feeder a bit and it'll, kind of rattle the seed and it'll help with the flow of it. But yeah, you can put it in your squirrel busters. I put my woodpecker mix in my squirrel buster and in my flipper feeder, and the birds just go crazy for it. So it's an expensive seed, but it's a good seed. So no problem with that at all. Scott says, very informative. Thank you, of course. And Vicky says, are bluebirds attracted to a particular color nesting box? Very good question. Not that I know of. I haven't heard of them being attracted to one over the other. So you can paint your boxes. You can do different colors. And I haven't heard of birds being attracted to one color over another that I know of. Some birds are attracted to certain colors in general, like hummingbirds are attracted to the color red, but I don't think bluebirds are attracted to a certain color nesting box. I'll look that up just to confirm, but I don't think they are. So that's a really good question. Looks like that's everybody's comments and questions for the day. We'll be back on Saturday with another broadcast. And until then, enjoy your week and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.